Hello and welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is the Iblis Manifestations Podcast. This channel features lengthy off-limits conversations with various different artists and entrepreneurs, predominantly from the underground metal scene. We take deep dives into the topics of life, music, spirituality, and take insight from a variety of thought-provoking perspectives from personalities who you don't often hear from in a mainstream settings. I am your host, Cheyenne, and I was originally born and raised in Iran and currently reside in the UK. I am the frontman and founding member of the black death metal band Trivex, who have been active since 2009. The band originally started in the Islamic Republic of Iran, where such type of music is banned as well as a punishable offense. You can check the band's pages for any updates on tour dates as well as new music. I am also a personal trainer and an online fitness coach who specializes in people achieving the best versions of themselves physically and mentally. Having been someone who was once extremely out of shape and overweight, I find it to be my duty to be able to pass on the information and knowledge which I've gained to help others achieve the same transformation. The Iblis Manifestations Podcast also features a variety of solo episodes where I discuss personal experiences and anecdotes in a very candid fashion, covering everything from mental health, spirituality, philosophy, and even paranormal experiences. This is the Iblis Manifestations Podcast. To support it, be sure to subscribe to the channel and visit the link in the descriptions.
It's great talking to you, Cheyenne, really. And best of luck to your endeavors with this podcast. I think it's a great initiative.
You're my favorite person to talk to for interviews and stuff. So I love what you're espousing out here. I love the knowledge and the perspectives that you're curating through this, and I'm just so honored to be a part of it. Thank you.
As I told you, it was one of the most interesting interviews I've ever had, because we talk a lot more things than just music, and I really appreciated that.
I respect you deeply, and it's an honor to be here.
And friends, remember as always, better to die on your feet than to live on your knees. Enjoy the podcast. All right, Mateo, it's a real pleasure to have you on the podcast, man. And first and foremost, you're probably sick of hearing this, but as far as Iblis Manifestation is concerned, you are officially the youngest guest to be on the show so far. How you feeling?
That's so.
Yes.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, how you doing tonight, man? You good?
Very well, very well. I've been sort of preparing for tomorrow. We're going to do a release show for the first time, actually. So I've been preparing both, mentally, physically a bit, practicing, or more like playing on my new strings, because you shouldn't change strings so close to the show, but I'm lazy. But
no, I've had a few of those like that. Yeah, I get like really bad anxiety with strings before a show. It's fucking horrible, because if you don't play it enough, then it starts fucking going out of tune really crazy as well.
And then you have shitty sound on stage, and you get panic attack because you don't hear if it's out of tune, and it's a mess.
Yeah, you watch a video that someone posts on Instagram later, and it's like, oh fuck, I can hear that it's slightly out. Yeah.
Worse feeling.
That's it, man. Well, tell you what, I really have to give a shout out and thank our mutual friend Katie for turning me on to you guys. I have to say, man, I'm super impressed. Really enjoyed the new record, and I was just listening to it now, and when you usually have like new music coming your way, I feel like after a while, all of us, like, we kind of get cynical, So it's kind of like when someone says, "Oh, have you checked out this new band?" You kind of go, "Oh, fuck, here we go,"
Yeah, I get what you're saying, yeah.
But when I was listening to you guys, I was like, "Fuck, man, you got some really good riffs there," And No, absolutely. As a guitarist and a songwriter, I totally appreciate, a lot of the stuff you got going on. The term, I came up with a genre for you guys. It's something that kept coming up to my head, and it was technical Niflheim. Don't know how you feel about that.
That's pretty good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Cool, man. Yeah, so tell us a little bit about this new album then. It sounds fucking killer, man. Really cool.
Yeah, thank you very much. Glad to hear that. It's it's been out now for 2-3 weeks, I think, and such an amazing feeling to have it out, because it maybe took the shortest to write. We were pretty locked in when we did it, but the whole sort of the boring process of getting it released the right way and all. But we landed pretty good with this label, so the turnout was very over our expectations. The response has been great. Really, also on the release day, felt like a release day. A lot of pressure and building up, and it really felt good. And it's gonna be cool to play the songs live now. It's gonna be cool.
But have you played any of them live yet?
We played like the singles. We got released like 2 singles during like a weekend tour we did. So got the chance to play that. Yeah, and we really think those songs suit live, because it was actually sort of the live context that inspired this album. That more primitive ooga booga type of intensity was actually coming from live. That was what sort of started this album process.
Is that why you kind of decided to go for the same setting for the music video as well?
Yeah, actually, that's a good point. The first video was like, or also that we knew that with Century Media, it's going to be a new audience, of course. And I think the coolest way to display this band is through live. We feel, pretty confident in playing live. And I like to, showcase a band in its like purest form. Because, in the end, we are 4 guys, and we play our instruments. And that's what I wanted to, or we wanted to show with the first impressions, I'd say.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to say as well, just as musicians alone, you guys are doing a very good job. You have a very good drummer as well. That's very important, I think. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was enjoying listening to it, man, because, the thing is, like, you got all the proper old school influences, I think that the genre that you guys are sort of, at least from a market perspective, tapping into, it's one that's kind of, generally speaking, saturated with a lot of modern thrash. I'm not a modern thrash metal guy, but then when I listen to you guys, I start to hear all the cool old school shit from the 80s, like where your name is basically made up of Sarcophago and Creator, which I thought that's a fun little idea. I like that. That's cool.
Yeah, it was actually the second song we wrote. It was like a working title name for that song. We felt it sounded like Sarcophago and Creator, so we called it Sarcator, and then we were on the hunt for the right band name, and we went with it, basically.
Absolutely, yeah. But I even hear, like, even in the newer bands, kind of like similar vibe as Dejile, even in some places.
Yeah.
I mean, you got a Concrete Winds shirt, so I already kind of know where you're coming from there.
Yeah. I think that those bands you mentioned, they inspired us very much on this, especially Concrete Winds and Vorum and these bands, because I agree with what you're saying, with not me being a new thrash metal fan either. I'm more into let's say the 80s, because of the sort of stuff being a bit outside in a way. It's very weird, but I'm very drawn to those bands, in both in death metal. If we're talking Swedish death metal, I'm not so much into like the Swedish death metal sound of Entomb and Dismember. I like them, but more drawn to Merciless or Grotesque because of that edginess of being a bit I don't know, outside in a way. So it is, when you listen to Merciless, it is death thrash whatever with black metal vocals, and that's sort of the same that we're going for. feels more free to write, being a bit outside in a way, but still carrying the spirit of the classic genre, so to say.
Yeah, for sure. I think Merciless is actually a great example. I mean, their first record, I love that record, man.
Yeah,
you know,
too, yeah.
It's just what I like about it is how fucking unhinged it is. I think that's kind of, you know. But then it's sort of like, you know, it's sort of you need some kind of an order to bring that chaos and then project it properly. But also to your point, I mean, you know, just personally as a fan speaking as well, I am a big fan of the Swedish sound. I mean, I love Dismember, love Entomb, the early stuff. But it's like that kind of stuff, other than those first few albums, anything after that kind of feels a little bit overly, for lack of a better word, formalized, you know?
Because it became a sound, you know, and that's where some stuff died off, you know, in a way. But when Dismember and Entomb started, it wasn't a sound, you know. There was just kids fucking around with pedals and, you know, worshipping Repulsion, basically, you know. And you can't, that's where true art comes from, you know.
Yeah, 100%. You could easily say the same thing about the second wave of Norwegian black metal as well. If you speak to any metal fan or even people who are outside of black metal, you talk to them and then you say second wave of Norwegian black metal. And then they immediately know a sound in their head. Yeah. But if you really think about it, every single one of those bands sounded different. Not only the bands sounded different, but each one of those bands' albums sounded different to one another. I mean, Darkthrone being like a prime extreme example of it too, you know? So it's kind of like, it's difficult to try and create a spark that's kind of authentic and new, but I think that it's not impossible. And with it being 2025, I think you guys actually did a good job of that.
Very glad to hear that. Yeah. And I think, exactly. For us, it's all about, we learned that on our second record, which is a very experimental record. You know, it's completely the opposite of the first one. You know, first one being, you know, classic debut album stuff. You know, it sounds like, it's pretty narrow in the sense, and, you know, it sounds like your influences. And it's pretty much just a thrash metal record, you know. But it's okay because it's a debut record, you know.
Sure.
But then, you know, learning on Alcast to just accept every influence, taking in everything that's, because for me it's two types of music, good and bad music, you know, and we just get inspired by good music, you know, and then you sort of build your own thing from it, you know. It's easy as that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I like that analogy because it's so subjective, you know, like, it's, there's good and bad music, and what I think is good music. And
exactly.
but, you know, it's cool. Yeah. I mean, I like it. I suppose maybe we're more tapping into the honest element of it, but you're also right about what you're saying as well. You know, with it, you kind of get away with being more sort of genre obedient on your first record, because that's just like that's how it's been a lot of times, you know. Watane's probably a good example, because with like Rabid Death's Curse, that's kind of like a sort of a standard traditional black metal album. You hear bits of everything and everyone else in there, and then by the second time it's like, well, hang on a minute, you know, there's like something else going on here, you know.
I think it was like Felix in my band, the bassist, he loves Watane also. He said like, it's a pretty, he said like, on the first record with Watane, it's like they don't know what they're doing, but it's something there. But then on the second record, Causes, you know, they know what they're doing. All of a sudden. And it's a whole nother depth added to it, you know.
Absolutely, man. So tell me a little bit just generally about your own background. Obviously, I know that he's mentioned quite a lot, but obviously your dad, Marco, from The Crown, so he's mentioned quite a lot there as well. You know, so was it through him, I presume, that you discovered this genre, or did you kind of make your own way into it? Just tell me a little bit about your own background of just getting into this music.
I think, like music as a whole started very early, because, you know, I've always had music in my home, both my parents, you know, and of course, you know, the metal and all came from my dad. You know, he listened to that, and I think it was such early age that it was like it started when he was playing stuff in the car, and then the band that I got hooked on and is still hooked on and will always be is Metallica. That's my main band in my life, and it's not.
You and
it's
I
like,
have that. Not to interrupt you, but you and I have that in common,
cool,
big
man.
time. Yeah,
you're a good person, man. So
there we go.
That's like beyond nostalgia. It's like, yeah, whatever. But yeah, Metallica became my favorite band, and that was also how it started with all guitar playing and all. So I got my first guitar when I was like 5, and that was because I played like classic guitars in front of the TV when he played like Metallica live. Acted like I was Kirk. So my parents saw something there and just bought me the guitar. And yeah, it escalated pretty quickly, And then, my dad was there and teach me the first riffs, like Am I Evil with Metallica, the cover. And then,
it's a classic one of the first ones everyone learns.
Yeah. Simple riff, it's. And then later on, like when I was 8 or 9, I got into this music school thing, which is like separate to your main school. It's like, once a week or something, where I met Jesper, the drummer. He took like drum lessons, and there we were like thrown into like a Metallica cover ensemble thing by a teacher there who saw that we liked Metallica. So we played like every single fucking Metallica song there, did some performances in front of, parents and stuff.
What songs did you go for?
We did actually a couple of obscure ones. We did Thing That Should Not Be, and
oh, cool.
Started with Orion, and no Enter Sandman on this this run. But,
that's the reason I had a feeling that's why I asked you. Yeah, but the Thing That Should Not Be is a fucking cool choice for a song.
We played the Seattle '89 version of it.
All right, cool.
But yeah, so fast forward like 2 years, 2016. I think I was like 12. It was still like Metallica for me. Playing maybe like Anthrax and Slayer and stuff like that. Through this music school. But it was when Felix, the old guy, joined the band. He was already into extreme metal. Came in with a black and white Creator Son of Evil shirt, and I said to myself, I gotta catch up, So the extreme metal thing came through basically Jesper and Felix for me when I was like 12. And then it escalated.
There we go, man. That's pretty cool. So what was, I guess, your dad's sort of response or reaction when you start bringing all this, like the proper extreme stuff to the table, which he's probably already aware of anyway?
Yeah, he thought it was cool, and I think his approach wasn't to force the music upon me, when I was little, because that could have been like doing the opposite effect, So he just played some stuff in the car or whatever, but then was happy that I discovered it maybe the same path as he did, more natural through like friends, and
Absolutely, man. That's cool. And I don't want to go into that sort of angle too much here. We're here to focus on you and what you've done, but I think it's interesting to kind of tap into that, because there's like a lot there. You have to understand that's a unique position to be in, and there's probably, you have to give some credit there, because considering how long you guys have been around and everything you're doing, for your third album to be doing as well as it is doing, but also not just in terms of like the industry aspect of it, but just like how well made the album is, like there's got to be some kind of I suppose pre-steps that would maybe put you ahead of a lot of other bands. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah, but we have had the sort of advantage of very much support coming from our families. They bought our stuff in the beginning. They let us jam. They accepted the sort of musical choices in the house. All that. So it's thanks to them.
Yeah. Well, that's a very, very, very important and very special thing, you know, like, and I will say this on the record, that's something that will never stop being cool.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, like, doesn't matter like how many people might be listening or whatever, you know, because I myself, I'm in that same position. If it wasn't for my parents supporting what I do in the, you know, because I grew up in Iran, you know, like, you have to understand it's pretty fucking, it gets crazy over there, you know. And, you know, and I know that you're already aware of that, but, you know, if it wasn't for them supporting me, if it wasn't for them buying me my first electric guitar or the acoustic guitar that came after it and, you know, all that stuff, I would have never even been able to not only practice what I was doing, I probably would have never been able to make it to the UK either, you know? So it's kind of like, you know, it's important to like acknowledge that, you know,
And also, you know, for us, you know, it's also my dad who recorded all of our stuff. I'm actually sitting in the home studio. It's his home.
Oh yeah.
So we recorded with him, and he's been involved, sort of. Not, you know, of course, being like a dadager, you know, but a very true supportive of what he can do, you know.
A dadager, I like that. So, I mean, he's written some fantastic riffs. He has a very unique riff writing style, you know, which I guess kind of is one of the things that makes The Crown stand out as well. So, is there any time, I don't know if now or at least earlier, you know, that you kind of got some riffs and then he like looks at it for you and then goes, hey, have you tried it like this? Do you ever have those kind of movements?
With his riffs?
Or like if, well, I was going to say it the other way around with your riffs, but I suppose it goes the other way too.
Yeah, but pretty early on we've had that cool sort of riff relationship of, you know, like showing each other riffs, and we still do that today, you know, and
that's awesome.
Like every Sarcator rehearsal recording I show to both my parents, and then, you know, he has his approach because, you know, he's a songwriter himself, and, you know, and it's the same with him and the Crown stuff.
That's pretty cool, man. And you also played with them as well, right? You played some live shows with them?
Yeah, that's right. I played last year. I jumped in on like session live guitar for them, like 6 shows, I believe.
How did you find that?
That was it was an experience. You know, I've grown up with the Crown, you know, so there are no strangers in that sense.
Of course.
Not the songs either. So it was more like him showing me, and then I just played along, you know. It came very naturally. But the only thing that was pretty new to me, that was the sort of lead guitarist role. You know, I had to step in for 2 very fantastic lead guitar players. I myself isn't a lead guitar player, you know. I've sort of, I play some solos, of course, but it's no shred.
You're the James Hetfield of the band. I see it.
Exactly.
I get it. Yeah.
Exactly. And but yeah, so stepping into that was a bit nervous, but I said, you know, right away that, you know, I'm gonna do my own solos, my own thing. You will just have to accept it. And then, you know, nobody looked at me differently when we played it in the rehearsal room, so it was all good, you know. So
yeah. Did you feel, because one thing that I always find different, you know, because I've done session work for other bands as well, you know, I played with Deities and a few other bands in the past, and one thing about it that I find to be such a big difference is when you're playing someone else's songs and you're also not fronting the band. I found that to be like really strange.
Yeah.
But also maybe kind of relieving at the same time as well. I don't know how you felt about it.
Yeah, sort of, because it was weird. Because all of a sudden you're standing on the side of the stage and people are looking at the singer, you know?
Yeah.
Not like I have something against that, but that was just a new thing, you know? Because as a frontman, you sort of have the duty of, you know, you want everybody to focus here, you know, and just capture the room. But then all of a sudden you don't have that sort of mission, you know. But that was sort of nice, felt good, because you could sort of just get into your own guitar playing and get immersed with that, you know. And,
yeah, it's one of those things. I think that is kind of like, you know, it's a relief, you know, and it kind of feels good actually. It's like, oh, you mean I don't have to arrange every single fucking thing that we do, you know? I can just show up and play, you know, like it's you know, like that to me, I remember being like so alien, you know, but like you initially find it comfortable, but I also kind of like, you can just tell it's not quite as fulfilling either, I feel.
Yeah.
You know?
I know that my role is being frontman in Sarcator, you know, so that's yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it's another thing, you know, when you got your own riffs that you might write in your own solitude and all the song structures and everything that you put your heart and all of your effort and your energy and time into, and when you're writing it, you already pre-imagine yourself being on stage playing those parts, right? You probably had that a lot with this record too, yeah?
Of course. Yeah, I imagine everything like that too early.
Yeah.
Totally.
Was there any particular songs that when you were writing it, you were kind of like, oh fuck, I can't wait to play this live?
I think that it's the Where the Void Begins, the third single. It's like the heavy one on the album. And it really has this like stomping, like heavy rhythm, a bit, you know, wherever I'm in Rome in the verses, you know, with all you know, a bit like that, and pretty, you know, dramatic in a way. And also, I pretty early on said, you know, that I want to have the guitar that just, you know, plays like an E chord, and then I could just get creative with my hands and all that. So I pretty much saw a live context for that song pretty early on. That was also why we did what we did with the video, because in that one I'm only doing the vocals on the vocal parts, because it felt like the natural thing to do for that song.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's that's something that kind of comes with experience, I feel, you know, because it's like when you write songs, you expect they're going to be a certain way, but then the more you play those songs live, you kind of find your own character and you kind of realize what you enjoy playing live more than you maybe thought, you know. That's why, like, with some of, for example, the Trivac stuff, you'll notice on our upcoming album, which is coming out on Osmos, on that one, you'll notice a lot of my guitar parts are just like ringing out, you know?
Yeah.
And that, part of that are like just fat chords. Yeah. And that's just because I wanna be able to fucking really express, you know, and you can also sort of distribute that responsibility to the rest of the band whilst you do what you want to do. Exactly. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. And yeah, totally.
Yeah. It's kind of like a case of less is more, you know?
Yeah, in a way, yeah.
Absolutely, man. Cool. Well, what can you tell us? You know, what's the plans for the band? You know, what have you got coming up? I know. Did you just announce for a tour with 1349?
That's right.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, very cool for us. And of course, we're just thankful to come out and play. But you know, playing like an Eastern Europe tour, having like Greece and Turkey and Romania, that was such a cool thing for us, you know, because we have some stuff, or we did actually the first tour last summer. That was with Hellripper. We did like the classic.
Oh, you toured with Hellripper?
Yeah, that's right.
All right, cool. Yeah, James is a friend of mine. He's been on the show a handful of times as well, actually. Yeah, cool guy. Great band.
Yeah, and also with Cloak, because I think I saw your Scott. Yeah.
I see. Oh, so you were the other band on that lineup. Yeah, okay. Right. So that was probably before I had heard of you guys then. Yeah, because both of those bands are obviously friends of mine who've also been on the show. Yeah. All right. Very cool. Well, there we go. Now we've completed the three of you then.
Exactly. Now we got to do it again.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, but that was such a fun experience for us. It was like too good for our first tour. You know, because we were like, I think like when it was approaching the end, we said like, now it's gonna get that moment when we don't want to do this anymore, you know. But that moment didn't come, you know. We loved it all the way through, and we felt like touring is something for us, and so it's gonna be cool to visit the countries, as I said now, getting the chance to expand the band across all of the borders.
That's awesome, man. I'm very pleased for you. Is it, in Romania, is it the Quantic you're playing?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
Oh, man, that's a fucking... Wait till you see it. It's a really cool venue.
Right, cool.
Really, really cool. We played there just under a couple of years ago with Celeste from France.
Right.
And it was awesome. And the promoter there, first of all, they're extremely, extremely hospitable people, really good people, hardworking, and very much into their proper underground metal, okay? So they're the furthest things away from posers, just in case they're hearing this. But the Quantic itself is really cool because it's a big fucking venue and the sound is perfect. That's
cool.
Just so
Already
you have something to look forward to.
Yeah. I remember I had like a moment of, we played on the Hell Repertoire again. We played the in Tilburg, the what's it called now? 013 Popodium or something like that. And that's also like a legendary venue and also a venue, that only devotes to artists. It isn't like a club that has been changed to a sort of, with no like backstage room or anything. It is truly, for the artists. And fuck man, it felt like a rock star going in there, like a big garage and, a host showing around in like a labyrinth of backstage. It was crazy. But,
That's fucking awesome, man. We've not been to Tilburg yet. That sounds cool. I'd like to do something like that.
Cool venue,
yeah. It's one of them, man. When you're on the fucking road, I mean, at least for you guys, you don't do the pain thing, but it gets tiring sometimes when you're in a public fucking toilet somewhere and then some random drunk asshole comes in and says, "Oh, are you guys in a Kiss cover band?" It's like, hey, how about you go fuck yourself?
Yeah, can imagine.
Yeah, it's one of those things, man. Comes with the territory. So that was your first tour that you guys did?
Yeah, it was.
Okay, so that was only last year?
Yeah, last summer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Last summer, cool. So will the 1349 one, is that your second one then?
It's like the third one. We did a Swedish tour now during the fall season of 24. We did play was sort of a weekend thing, like playing every Friday and Saturday. Played with a couple of friends in Eternal Evil and Eradicated Bloodstain. It's like sort of a youth scene in Sweden with young bands, and this was like the opportunity to do a tour out of it, basically, and that was a cool thing to keep us occupied and playing a lot of cool venues in Sweden that we hadn't been to.
And I have to just add something here as well. Obviously, there's a lot that's going on for you guys, and I congratulate you for that. That's great. I'm really, really pleased to hear that. But for anyone listening to this who's like, oh, how's this band, like getting all these opportunities and things, so early on in their career, I'll say one thing. Listen to Sarcator. These guys are fucking great and they deserve it. So
thank you very much, man. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it. So here's one question for you. If you were to go back to yourself when you released your first album, was that like 5 years ago, was it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
Okay. What would you tell yourself from 5 years ago that you have learned since the first album came out?
I mean, sort of like creative wise, you sort of accept that, you can do what you want on the debut album because, it's your first time doing it. So it's pretty much, you can accept it being almost a cover album, it's okay. But telling, that you because already back then we had ideas of, experimenting more. And I think telling myself to listen more to that and just be more open to it. Because in a way we thought it was more of like regulations around the sound. I don't know, but more writing of a formula more. But we catched on pretty quickly with the sort of creative thing and letting all the influences come. So I wouldn't really change anything. I think it's sort of gone on the right path since the beginning. I think, yeah, it's heading on the right path at least.
Yeah, for sure. What I mean is maybe more so. Now, I appreciate your response there, but just to kind of maybe like push that a little bit further is what's your, what's something that you've maybe learned since then that you can implement, or that, let's say, if you were talking to another band that were in your position, so you know what I'm saying. So I'm not just talking about what would you like criticize about yourself then, but what would you tell yourself then that you can implement to be better? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Because I think playing live, we couldn't do that on the first album because, it was a pandemic album. But, we were, I think the most important thing is, the people around you, having a wide range of contacts, because people knows people, and snowball effect, and I think we were a bit maybe just focused on us in the beginning, and this goes the same with when we started playing live, that you were just hiding out in the backstage and not getting out there, because that's a very important thing, networking basically.
That's everything, man.
Yeah,
that's
it is.
everything.
It is.
Yeah.
And now we take that very seriously, and it was actually a very cool thing to tour with Hellripper, because that was also him handling the merch, James. But the moment he struck the last chord, he just threw the guitar off and went straight to the merch table and started talking with people. And that was like when we realized, right, this is how you should do it. So maybe I would tell myself that, or us, like a bit more early on to do that, because you never know who you meet.
This is extremely fucking true, man, and that's one of the, for me, that's also been one of the biggest lessons, because it's like, I think, there's a multitude of aspects to this, especially like when you're younger, I mean, when... God, I sound like a fucking granddad here. I'm only 30, but like when I was 19, I was horrible. I was an absolute fucking asshole, because I thought it was cool to be an asshole, Yeah. And a lot of people in this style of music, unfortunately, kind of fall into that because it goes hand in hand with the image, Maybe they watched the Gigi Allen film way too many times, like I did, and it's it's kind of like, and it's, don't get me wrong, you gotta be your own person. You pick up the guitar and play this music because you want to be yourself, okay?
Yeah.
And maybe who you are isn't compatible with the entirety of the rest of the world, rather. And that's great. That part I still relate to this day.
Yeah.
But there is this other thing, is that, there's still a lot of people there that are paying money, taking time out of their evening. The time is even more important than the money.
Yeah.
That's our most important currency. They're taking time to come and check out your band, watch your show, queue so that they can buy merch, to do all of these things, So that's all the important stuff that kind of, if you're lucky enough, if you're surrounded by good enough people, it does catch on eventually, and it's important to keep that in mind.
Very rewarding, and also if you are a band that wants to sort of progress or play live more, and who are you without the people around you? Everything from the audience that supports you, that buys your merch, that comes to your show, that gives a fuck, to the people in charge of your music, releasing your music, stuff like that. You can't do it on your own, or you can, but you will have to cooperate with people and be on their good side and appreciate them,
Yeah, absolutely. One thing that I always liked Arnold Schwarzenegger say, even though he's a fucking globalist sellout in today's world, unfortunately, one thing that I still really respect him for what he achieved back in the day, like every guy does, basically, it's like you can't take away from that back in the day. But one thing that I really appreciated him saying a lot was how he always said that he's not a self-made man, because obviously he's got like the craziest resume if you look at it, going from from Austria to America, and like him making it in bodybuilding, being the greatest bodybuilder in the world at the time, that was obviously mighty impressive. But him making it in films with that silly accent and the name is even weirder,
Yeah, it is,
do it now. It's like, what the fuck? But then, he said that he's not a self-made man because it's because of the help of his friends and the people who support him that he's there. And that's totally fucking true. I feel that way about this podcast, not to compare this podcast to Schwarzenegger, obviously, but it's, you need everyone. To me, it's every guest that's ever been on this show, yourself included now as well, and everyone who's ever listened to this thing that actually makes it what it is,
It is
so,
like that, yeah.
Yeah, and it's the same for your bands as well. So important to kind of keep that in mind,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, man. And I think that, so just to kind of bring this back as well. So one thing that I was also thinking as well is you're obviously 19 now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Turning 20 this year, yeah.
You'll be 20. When's your birthday?
April 28. No, yeah, 28. Yeah.
What do you mean? No.
Yeah.
You have to get.
How do you say it? 28th of April. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's cool, man. I'll keep that in mind, and I'll send you a message when the time comes, because I remember birthdays really well.
All right.
One thing that do you ever get people who, in fact, before I even say it, you probably get this a lot. You get people who come up to you and say, "Oh man, you're young. You've got your whole life ahead of you, whatever." Do you get that ever?
Like every show.
Yeah.
Not only shows, but a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. What? I know this is maybe a strange question, but what's your feelings about that kind of feedback or that kind of comment?
I mean, it's weird because this is the only reference that I have. Like, I don't know how it wouldn't, or what it would be if it wouldn't be like this. I mean, it is what it is, and we are a young metal band, and maybe we have all the future ahead of us, and that's cool. It's not much to say, but it's cool that people can sort of resonate with it. But because when people come up and sort of admire that we're young, it's also that it has sparked something, maybe that they feel young again or whatever, and that's nothing wrong with that. That's just cool, because it is like it's something that young spirit comes alive again. That's very cool, I think.
I really appreciate your positive attitude towards that, actually. So I suppose in a way maybe it breaks some barriers in their heads as well. Is that, oh no, wait, this is still possible?
Yeah, I think
kind
so.
Of thing,
yeah,
maybe.
Especially on this when we did that the youth sort of band tour thing, which is not for young bands playing metal, and it's just a cute thing, and everybody's just there for nostalgia. It is like for good bands that really are devoted to what they're doing, and I think people can resonate with that more than just rather being a concept. It is for real.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess the thing that you will always have to back you up is the actual music itself too, right?
Exactly, the most important one.
Absolutely, man. But do you know why I asked you that question? Because it was kind of like a little bit of a lead up, because I kind of had my own 2 cents on it.
Right, tell me.
Yeah. So, just as background, in my own friendship groups, I've generally speaking always been the youngest. Okay. Yeah. And even now, I have very few friends that are actually younger than I am. Like maybe like 2 or 3 people that I know who I consider friends that are actually younger than me. Most of my really good friends are all like maybe even 10, 15 years older than I am.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And maybe you relate to that, actually.
I relate to that. I don't. Yeah. I it's the same here. I don't have like younger friends than me. I've always been the young one. Not even in the band, but felt like that always.
Yeah. The the thing that I wanted to say to you with that, and this is just from, person to person, just as a little take, it's something that I've learned is obviously you don't have to say to them the exact words that I'm about to utter, but someone comes up to you and says, "Oh, wow, you're only 19. Oh, wow, you're only 20. Oh, you're so young. You have your whole life ahead of you."
Yeah.
I would say go fuck yourself. Because your life is now. And you do what the fuck you want to do, and you do it right now, and you do it with a great sense of urgency.
And also, when they say, you're 19, and so were you,
Yeah. Yeah. And the thing is, you don't want to, their 19 is different to yours. So you don't want to live your life by the standards of other people, So this is a very important thing that I kind of learned, because I remember the thing that sparked the thought that for me to even tell you this is when I was 16 years old, I was in Iran. And we went to this underground illegal live show of this death metal band called Mortalism, okay? And death metal shows don't happen in Iran. And this gig got, the sound and the lights got cut off in the first song, okay?
Oh, sure, yeah.
Yeah. I was like right there. There was like maybe 30, 40 people. We had to sit on chairs, first of all. But then there was like an actual drum kit, and then they were a 3-piece band. And as soon as the vocalist and bass player started singing, he had to fucking, they switched off the lights. They were like, everyone has to leave before we call the police and all that bullshit, right?
Yeah.
And I was talking to the guy afterwards. I ended up buying his BC Rich later before I moved here. Now I was talking to him, and I was telling him about everything I was doing, and he was like in his like mid-30s, right? It's kind of sad, you have to think, being in your mid-30s in a death metal band in Iran, you try and play one gig and you don't even make it to the first verse, right?
Yeah, pretty sad,
That's a sad reality, so you and I are very lucky to be sat here talking about our experiences,
totally.
I think.
Totally.
But I remember telling him that, like, he was like, "How old are you?" I was like, "Oh, I'm 16. I'm turning 17 in November." He was like, "Bro, when I was your age, all I was doing was just playing with my dick, and I had nothing going on for me." And I remember kind of thinking to myself, I was like, "Yeah, but I'm not you."
Exactly. Yeah. We're not living the same life.
Yeah. Not to like put him down, but it's kind of like, everyone's got their own trajectory there, so you can't use the excuse of being young for being complacent. And I'm not saying that you are. I'm just saying that as like a general, broad kind of perspective that I picked up. I don't know what's your thoughts on it, but this is something that I've definitely learned over the last many years.
Very good points. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. So when you play shows, when you do your thing, it's kind of, I know I mentioned it at the beginning of the episode. I was like, oh yeah, shit, you're the youngest guest that's actually ever been on here, which is true, but also don't let that fucking define you, man. You're you. Do your fucking thing. All right?
Yeah, and as I said, that's the only thing I know of doing. So it's nothing weird for me, I mean, it's just a no shit moment.
Yeah, there we go. Anyway, with that little granddad rant from Cheyenne, tell us, what's the plans for Sarcator upcoming, man? Tell us a little bit. Any kind of exciting plans or anything you got cooking for us? Obviously, we're right at the peak of this album coming out, so tell me a bit more.
Yeah, so like playing live-wise, like tomorrow we're doing the release party. We're also doing another release party that got postponed, which we're doing in Oslo. We will find a new date for that one. But yeah, that's how we're starting this year. Gonna be cool. Then we have sort of a break, nothing announced yet until like May when that 1349 tour starts. And I think that if I know us and how we work, we will probably write most of the next album during that period. So it's during now from February to May, because for us it's like a machine going. It's like if we're not playing live, then have a live show to rehearse, we will make something creatively or something. It's just we rehearse like once a week, and it's always something going on. So if we doesn't have a show in front of us, we will, create something. And I think we will get most things done during that period. Then on like June, July, we're getting a bit busy again. I'm gonna be careful with what is getting announced and not. But we have some cool stuff. We're actually doing the Sweden Rock Festival in Sweden. That's very cool.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah,
Fuck yeah.
That's sort of been on the bucket list for every Swedish metal band, I think. Playing that one.
I was just gonna say, yeah, that's a very prestigious festival to play with it. Yeah. And
then some other festivals, also a lot of underground festivals in Germany and Netherlands and stuff. We're doing Turok, the Battle Cry Festival, Burning Q Festival with Midnight. Gonna be cool. So stuff like that, yeah.
That's awesome, man. Great stuff. There's one thing that, whilst you were talking there, kind of piqued my curiosity, and I was meaning to ask you this, is when you were talking about you and the guys will write the stuff around that particular period of activity. Yeah. How collaborative is the songwriting process for you guys?
We've always, wanted to carry the sort of band collective thing, band spirits, that we meet in the rehearsal room, and that's where we sort of weld the songs together in a way. And it's sort of like I provide with most of the riffs. I send the riffs, and if they like it, we will bring it to the rehearsal room and work on it together. So
how do you work on song structures then?
Yeah, exactly. That's probably most Jesper, the drummer, sort of. He comes up mostly with the structures, and I have sort of my simple structures, and he does his thing, because Jesper is he's sort of a creative drummer. There are like two types of drummers for me. There's the ones who just want to play and is in every fucking band. And then you have like a drummer like Lars Ulrich or something, that creates songs, and that's Jesper, So it's a lot of me providing with the riffs, and then us, and the other guys also pitching in and all that.
The reason why I asked that is because one thing that you guys have, which I've always really liked in bands, is these little like one bar kind of tricks that happen in the song, that kind of transition riffs. I fucking love that kind of stuff, That's the reason why I asked it, because coming up with those kind of parts as a group is really difficult, and it's just a brain fart, so it's like usually need only one or two people to kind of be like, oh, so for this 2 seconds here, this is what we're gonna do, then it's gonna go to a completely different riff, you know what I mean?
I get what you mean, and I think that's mostly me and Jesper that is more like driven when it comes to those things, and because when complicated details like that comes up, Felix the bass is just like shaking his head but then he learns it, and it's but I agree, the devil is in the details, and we it's a lot of that on this record, but it has to flow naturally in a way.
The point of it, the way I look at it is it's almost like, when you put like a wooden plank on top of water between like two little, to create like a bridge. That's kind of how I look at those little bits, It's just so you get the path to carry on moving, Yeah,
exactly. Because like we have always been into like what we want to develop is the songwriting. We want to get. For me, I haven't looked at myself as a guitarist. Like it's more of songwriter, which use the guitar as my main vessel. Basically, and sort of that's what we want to do for every album. Get better at songwriting. So we have this song, the second one on this record, Comet of End Times, which is a very like weird song, because it starts with this Morbid Angel, just death metal worship, blast beat riff, and then a Black Sabbath riff,
Which song is this?
Comet of End Times, the second one.
So that was actually my favorite song from the record.
Oh, cool.
I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like
obviously, a different outro to the rest of it, but just like the whole build-up.
Yeah.
Lyrics were kind of cool as well, I thought. Yeah.
Because that was like, they started with the opening riff and then that main Black Sabbath riff. And I was like, how can we get these two to flow together?
I gotcha.
And it sort of did, I think, and we succeeded on that. So stuff like that is what our focus lies in. You know?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, no, that was the song that I was listening to that maybe perhaps even sparked that thought. It's like, oh, cool, I like these like little tricks here and there, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's kind of one of the things that kind of sets apart a lot of bands for me as well. You know, there's a lot of things, there's live energy, you know, there's lots of different elements to it, but songwriting is just, that's everything, man.
Yeah, it is.
You know? I hear so many bands, or you know, in the UK, you know, I'll give you perspective. The UK scene, bar maybe one or two bands. Generally, you get bands that they look okay, they package everything right, they perform well enough, they do the PR right, they get nice album covers, all this stuff. But then it's like there's something missing. And I think a lot of it comes down to the songwriting, you know. It's like, well, why did you write that riff? Did you just write it because you think, like, why? Explain to me, you know?
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's how we view music, that it should be the sort of the foundation that you build everything on. That has to be solid, you know?
Yeah.
That has to be the ground that you're standing on. And you've seen bands that maybe lack in that, and then they compensate with other stuff, and that's pretty, you know, show business or whatever, you know. But yeah, I think songwriting, and that's also why we feel very confident when we go on a tour or go into the studio, because we feel that we're totally happy with what we stand on, so to say.
Well, that's great, man, and long may that continue for you.
Hope so.
Oh yeah, and also just one little quick question here. You know, like, just only because you mentioned him earlier, don't you think Lars just gets way too much fucking shit for what he has actually done?
Me and Jesper and my dad is the biggest Lars supporters ever.
There you go,
Lars, and because, you know, people don't get Lars. Basically, you know, this guy is he's whatever. You could criticize his drumming because, everybody does that, you know. Feels like that. They just write it for the sake of it, you know. But this guy has created a masterpiece of a band, and he is the main songwriter, and he is the one who welds everything together. And the thing with Lars is that he always serves the song, you know. That it doesn't have to be fucking Damage Inc., Dyer's Eve, Madness, you know. If it is Outlaw Torn with just focusing on the groove, he will do it wholeheartedly, you know, just grooving and keeping it simple because the song needs that, you know, stuff like that. People aren't thinking about that. And
Are you a fan of Death Magnetic at all?
Maybe not Death Magnetic, because that is a bit weird for me. I think that's the one album where Metallica, in a way, stopped being Metallica. Of you know, always progressing forward. You know, they started, you know, backtracking and you know, hooked up with Rick Rubin, that told him that they should think like the first 4 albums, and they listened to that and they tried to emulate the old sound. And I think that Metallica has always been about moving forward and doesn't give a fuck of what people think, you know, because for me they're almost more lost doing Death Magnetic than doing Saint Anger. I think
that's a really interesting take, because I mean, first of all, I'm actually a really big fan of that album.
Yeah.
But I do think Rick Rubin kind of ruined it. Like, it could have been better. You know, the mix is. Ugh.
Oh yeah.
But you know, you hear my genuine reaction there. But I do think like some of the songwriting on that album is really fucking good. Like I
mean,
actually
it's
think
worked
that
through. It is.
Yeah.
But
I think
it's like too much, you know. It has these like
maybe
unnecessary parts in a way that just But also, no, it's a pretty nostalgic album for me. It was released in 2008, I think. Yeah, and I was like 3, 4, 5 when I started listening to them. So, you know, so all the live stuff from that era as well. So
yeah, I think, you know, if you want to talk about song structures, a song like The Judas Kiss, like the structure on that. And also, I think Kirk has literally one of his best solos on that song. Like, it's that kind of stuff, unfortunately, it's so overlooked because I always feel like Death Magnetic is kind of tainted with the reputation of Saint Anger. Just because everyone is like, oh, okay, so post-2000s Metallica is just simply shit, so the whole thing must be bad. And then it is kind of sandwiched between Saint Anger and Lulu, which is not really setting the bar extremely high, unfortunately. But I do feel like, and the thing is as well, I actually really like your criticism of it as well, because I do think that's actually quite valid to an extent. But it's an album that, you know, you kind of got to listen to it for its own thing. Headfield has some crazy good fucking riffs there, like End of the Line. That's got some fucking good down picking kind of riffs on the verses, you know. If you try and play that just down picking, like tell me as a guitarist that's not some of the most satisfying shit you've ever played, you know?
Yeah, he has the groove totally, and I think he has a groove. But also I think the song Unforgiven 3 is actually one of my favorite Metallica songs. Totally, it's it's such a very honest, naked, epic song. I love that one.
What did you think of the version that he did with the symphony in
Even
2019?
better.
Yeah, right?
He's just standing there without a guitar, just that's fucking naked if it is something, you know. And that was also like right before he went into rehab, and you know, I
was just about to say,
his life was shit, you know, and so it became even more, you know, powerful, that performance. I think it's great.
Do you think Tobias from Ghost had something to do with it?
No, not
okay,
really.
This sounds really random when I say it like that. I'll explain. They were it's actually kind of like a little bit of an inside joke, but it's kind of like, was it? I'll explain. So they actually, Ghost was supporting Metallica that same year, if you think about it.
Yeah, I saw the tour.
2019. And how fucking great were both bands, by the way?
Yeah, they were. Very good.
Excellent. I know with Ghost, maybe it wasn't the same with Metallica stage props, because they couldn't build the stage like how they would normally want to build it, but still.
Yeah. It was very limited for Ghost, but they did a good job, you know.
I think so too. Yeah, I think so too. I know, you know, I mean, you're playing stadium supporting Metallica. It's like, what else would you want to do as a band, you know? Like, but this is the thing that I was saying to the guys. This was June 2019. Okay, I got to see it with both Trivex guys, and we were right at the front in Manchester. Fucking one of the best shows. It's the Rain one, yes, bro. It was fucking crazy. Like I think that might actually be my favorite show I've ever been to, and I've literally seen the greatest of the greats. I've seen everyone, you know. I've seen Watain like 10 times. I've seen King Diamond. I've seen Rammstein. I've seen Metallica other times. I've seen Black Sabbath. I genuinely think that seeing Metallica in Manchester, for me personally, being right at the front and being completely drenched in rain whilst looking at the sky and having one playing was the ultimate. That was the best show I think I've ever seen.
That's cool.
Yeah, like Lars was hitting the snare and you can see the fucking water rising up, man. So fucking cool. Yeah. But going back to it, I was saying to the other two guys, I was like, hey guys, do you reckon Tobias is maybe a bad influence on Hetfield, you know, not like he's never been known to be like a drinking guy or whatnot, you know, but somehow in my head I could imagine these things of like, oh, what if there's some kind of like an influence there, you know? And then 3 months later we hear that he relapsed.
Yeah.
So
who knows?
I'm not saying like I'm
Yeah.
I'm glad that he got things together, you know.
Yeah.
I don't drink. I quit drinking 2-3 years ago. And you know, I think Hetfield's a fucking great guy. I also think Tobias is a great guy. I've actually met Tobias a couple of times. Really nice fucking guy. But it was just a thought I was having at the time. And then when that came out 3 months later, it was a bit like, what?
Yeah.
You know? But yeah, you're right. It was great. I think the fact that he was probably kind of falling apart doing that Unforgiven 3 performance with the symphony, it's just fucking great, man.
Very
Love
epic moment, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So, should we wrap this up here, do you think?
Sure, man. Yeah. It's been a
Absolutely.
very good talk, man.
Absolutely. So here's what I want to do. I do want to have you back on here at some point again in the future. Maybe we do an in-person episode, you know, because I like you, man. I think I think what you're doing with the band is really good, and I think that you know, I think it's necessary. You know, we need more of that kind of authentic power of the proper heavy metal spirit coming from younger bands. You know, I think that's really we're in more dire need of that, I think, than we fucking realize it. Yeah. Let's just put it that way. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Is there anything else you want to plug that we haven't talked about before we finish this up?
Yeah, I'm so like tired now or brain fog, but can't really think of it. I think we covered everything.
Yeah, cool. Well, that happens to most people who talk to me, so that's absolutely fine. Yeah.
No offense, but you know, been packing up and preparing for the show tomorrow the whole day, so I'm a bit, you know,
Awesome. Where are you playing tomorrow?
We're playing in Stockholm. Doing
cool.
A release show, gonna be.
Oh right, that's the release show.
Yeah.
And you're spending the night before talking to me. Well, listen, man. I appreciate your time. I wish you the best with Sarcator. Like I say, you guys are new to me, but you know, I hope you're here to stick around. Okay.
Yeah, of course.
And yeah, best of luck with the show tomorrow. And let's talk again soon, some other time.
Sounds good, man. Thank you very much for having me.
Awesome, brother. My pleasure. And to everyone else listening to the podcast, hope you guys enjoyed this one. Support Sarcator, and we'll see you on the next episode of Iblis Manifestations. Let's fucking go.
Cool, man.